Conducting an authentic assessment for employment, like other forms of assessment, takes planning. You need to know where you are heading and develop a plan to get your student there. Always start with the end goals in mind and identify the skills you want the student to develop and on which they will be assessed. Those skills could be academic, behavioral, and soft and hard skills, such as greetings, using an Excel document, managing frustration safely, or dressing appropriately for work. Each step in the planning and pre-assessment process will ensure that the student, assessor, and business are prepared for the assessment and that the skills and standards of the assessment in the workplace are aligned with Virginia's Applied Studies curriculum map for employment. When planning for an authentic assessment in the workplace, it is important to know your student. That may seem obvious, but you want to ensure that the authentic assessment aligns with the student's IEP goals, interests, skills, and strengths. For example, the student may have an IEP goal on counting money, so your authentic assessment may involve working a cash register in a local business. Or you may have a student who has a transition goal of working as a nurse's aide, so your authentic assessment may be in a hospital or other medical setting. It is important to make sure the tasks of the job are feasible for your student to complete. You want the assessment to be challenging, but mastery with or without supports needs to be attainable. This means that one employment authentic assessment will not fit all students. Your assessment is not individualized if all the students in your class are completing the same authentic assessment. If you are developing an authentic assessment for a student who is new to your caseload, school, or classroom, be sure to review the student's IEP, discovery information, past assessments, and documentation on work-based learning outcomes. If possible, interview your student on current goals, interests, strengths, skills, conditions for success, and support needs. This will help you align the tasks to match interests, skills, strengths, and plan areas of the authentic assessment that the student may need support or pre-assessment training. Once you have negotiated a business site and tasks for the authentic assessment, it is important to set up a job shadow. A job shadow is where you go into the business and observe an employee doing a job. Your goal is to learn the steps that are required to complete the tasks that the assessment will be covering. It is also a time for you to ask questions so that you feel confident with training and assessing your student on the same tasks. Become familiar with the layout of the business, standards and expectations, and the routine for the job your student will be expected to perform. The components of a job shadow are setting up the job shadow, conducting the job shadow, and renegotiating processes or tasks to align with targeted goals and standards as well as the student's abilities. On the day of the job shadow, arrive prepared to take notes and record information learned about the job. Take notes on each step of the job and make sure your notes are specific and clear. It is not going to be enough just to know the general idea of the job. You need to know the details of the job or task to be able to create a task analysis that is tailored to your student in order to train to the standards of the business. The information on tasks, workplace behaviors, and standards you gather through the job shadow will also provide you with the evidence and confirmation that the tasks align with the student's goals and standards you want them to achieve. Renegotiate the process or tasks that your student will perform if you feel that the tasks are not exactly aligning to goals and standards. Speak with a business to see if you can customize the tasks to align with your targeted learning outcomes. Once you have completed the job shadow, there are several things that you can do prior to the student's first day of training, such as create a task analysis form, prepare instructional strategies, identify and practice prerequisite skills, and review the job with the student. First, take the information you gathered on the job shadow to create a task analysis to collect your data and drive your instructional plan. The information you gathered from the shadow, plus what you know about your student, will allow you to determine how small you need to break down each task. The task analysis will be an important part of planning instruction. Second, prepare instructional strategies such as a checklist or visual prompts on steps or tasks that you know may be challenging for your student. The job shadow plus your knowledge of your students will give you insight into the areas that the student may need support. Planning for and creating instructional strategies up front will save you valuable training time on the back end. Third, teach prerequisite skills that are needed in order to complete the job task you observe. You may want to work on those skills in the classroom or around the school. If there is a comparable environment within your school, you can help the student prepare by spending time practicing in that environment. Finally, before the first day on site, you will also want to prepare the student. Use the TA to review the tasks and the necessary steps to get your student familiar with what she will be expected to do. Discuss the type of business with the student, their mission and values, how the building is set up, and their website. This will help the student feel comfortable and connected. Also, before the first day, make sure the student completes any required paperwork, is aware of the dress code, and any other prerequisites of the business. Having this conversation will help decrease anxiety, increase buy-in, and ensure that a student gets started on a positive note. Once the student is on the job site, pre-assess and provide instruction for completing job tasks and routines prior to conducting an assessment of student progress and skill attainment. The focus on the first day in an employment setting should be to gather baseline data to pre-assess the student's skills prior to training. Once you collect baseline data, then you can begin training and implementing instructional strategies. Set a date for your authentic assessment to take place after predetermined training days, depending on the student and tasks. Taking pre-assessment data will allow you to compare growth of skills even if the student does not master the assessment. Planning for an authentic assessment, when done right, can be a bit time-consuming. However, it will make the training and assessment stage more productive for you and the student and save time on the back end. Remember, all of the steps of planning do not need to be completed by the teacher. If there is a paraprofessional who will be completing the assessment, have her conduct the job shadow and help with creating the TA and initial supports. In the classroom, you would not execute a lesson without determining learning outcomes and standards, creating a plan, and developing needed materials. The same should go for an authentic assessment in an employment setting.
The VCU Center on Transition Innovations is funded by the Virginia Department of Education. For further information about the Center on Transition Innovations, please visit our website at centerontransition.org.